Welcome to the Wealth Tank Podcast, Passive Investing for Veterans. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and motivate you to reach your goals of wealth and freedom. I'm Noel Walton, and with me today is my co-host, Tom Groves, to introduce our guest.
Awesome. Thanks, Noel. So today's guest is Vince Gethings. He's a family man, a private pilot, a 16-year enlisted Air Force veteran, a highly successful real estate investor with over 570 apartment units valued over $40 million, a business franchise owner, and an expert in building teams, systems, and processes. So really, there's not much that Vince can't do. So we're really excited to talk to you, and we're really excited to dive into this story. So Vince, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Noel. I'm excited.
Excellent. So we're going to start off, one thing that we'd love to hear, we want you to share with our listener, kind of what's your story? What made you who you are today?
Yep. Great first question. So I am pretty typical military, or maybe not typical. I don't know. So I joined the military right out of high school. I'm actually dropped out of high school, and I got my GED, and then I joined the military as soon as I was turned 18. So I was like one of the people that as soon as I got 18, went to MEPS, and I was like, what's the first job you have out of here? Kind of story. And I ended up being aircraft maintenance. So I was aircraft maintenance. I went from mostly heavies in the Air Force that, they kind of do either heavies or your fighters. So I was a heavy aircraft maintenance. And I was on aircraft from B-52s. They had a little A-10 mission there, so I know a little bit of A-10s, but mainly B-52s. And I went over to C-5s at Travis and spent most of my career on the C-5 Galaxy and Super Galaxy at Travis in California. Nice. And then I went out to Hawaii. Somehow I made somebody happy because I went out to Hawaii. I was at Hickam for 3 years, and then that's when everything kind of really took off. I had already been starting real estate at that point. We can go back and talk about that, but I went out to Hawaii 2017, and my real estate businesses were really starting to take off. I got a dream job as what the Air Force calls a career assistance advisor. So it's a cross between I guess the Army, like I know the first sergeant in the Army, kind of fills a lot of that role. In the Air Force, we have like kind of the first sergeant, and then there's like the CAA. And it's kind of like professional development coach mixed with like guidance counselor. And it's like a weird kind of one-off. There's one person in the wing that serves this role, works under the wing staff. And it was like the dream job. Like I couldn't have been happier, but that's awesome. Special duty. And then special duties end. And then like, okay, after this, like this beautiful, perfect career milestone, now you have to go back to aircraft maintenance, working, 12, 14, 16-hour shifts, and then, deploying all the time, TY all the time. And at the time, my kids, I have 3 kids, don't remember what life was like when I was on the flight line. So I had to make the decision, do I want to go back to that with three kids at home, or do I want to kind of jump ship and then burn the ships and see if I can make it in the real estate game full time. And that was 2021 was when I got out. So about 2 years in, and so far I'm still doing good.
That's awesome, man. That's and I think so many people, to our transitioning military member that's getting out of the, moving on to that next career. I think that's encouraging, because it doesn't matter where you come from, but it does matter what you're doing every day, and that next step. And so you who are transitioning out, you can do anything. You truly can do some amazing things in this community. So that's awesome. So really quick, so you got out in 2021. For 2 years now, you've been working in real estate. So what are you doing right now, a little more specifically? And you mentioned how you had some real estate business early on. How did you start that up?
So when I joined the military 2006, I've always been kind of money focused. I'm always a big saver, things like that, even really young in my career. And I started doing stock investing. So like 2008, 2007, right when I got to my first duty station, I was like the first, like I was maxing out my, what do we have? TSP.
The
So
TSP?
yeah, so I was like maxing
Mhm.
out TSP, doing all the tricks, read all like the Dave Ramsey and books like that. And I was at a pretty high savings rate really young. And then I got into kind of stock investing, and I went down in the rabbit hole of like Warren Buffett value investing. So I read all Warren Buffett's books, all Benjamin Graham's books. And I thought I was pretty good at that, which was a really good time because that's what we had the big crash. So I was buying stuff like right when I was like learning about this stuff, I was buying, stocks and companies and ETFs and everything like that, when the market was tanking. And then I kind of rode that up a little bit. And then in 2013, I bought my first house using my VA home loan. So I did the 0 down VA home loan. And by then I was smart enough at that point to know that, to do some quick math on. I was like, wow, if I just buy like the crappiest house on the best street that will still pass the VA inspection, I can make a lot of equity really quick. So that's what I did. Is I found, the best house or the worst house on the best street at Travis that I could find that I could afford. And even at that time, my mindset was really low. So like $150,000 in 2013 was like a lot of money for me. Looking back, I'm like, I should have bought like the biggest house that I could have got qualified for. Because Bay Area, California exploded post the crash there, 2014, 16, 17. But anyway, so I bought that house. I did a move and flip on it. At the same time, I was doing the stock investing. So I was kind of doing both side by side. And then it got to a point where I wasn't finding any stocks that made sense. So right around like 2015, 2016, that made sense under the value investing principles that, Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett, like those do. Like everything, that's when like Tesla and Amazon was trading at like 900 PE ratios and stuff like that. And they're like, the PE ratios are so far off that they don't even cover it in the textbooks that I was trying to follow. So I was like, okay, stocks aren't making sense, but I did just make, $150,000 in equity in this one house I did. So something started clicking around that point of 2016 of let's get out of stocks. Real estate's a better bet. Went back to the drawing board. At that time, I started reading things like, obviously Rich Dad Poor Dad, but also like Bigger Pockets, found Bigger Pockets, read all of Brandon Turner's books. And 2016 was like the big moment where I was like, my first big leap. So I sold that house, my first VA 0 down house, pocketed 130 grand. And then I liquidated everything, like all my brokerage accounts, everything just got liquidated. I took it all and I had a big pile of cash, and I went into buying small multifamilies, duplexes and fourplexes, because that's all I knew at the time based off of Brandon Turner's Bigger Pockets books. Back in those days, that's pretty much all they focused on. And I bought 20 units in 18 months. So between 2016 and 2018. And I was like, I'm a genius. I figured it, I figured it out. Like, this is awesome. Nice. And at that time is when I moved from California to Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii with 18 units or with 20 units. And then by then I hit the problem that most everybody else hits when they do that, is then they become, asset rich, cash poor. And then you're like, okay, well, how am I going to buy the next deal? And then that's when,
right.
So I kind of sat there from 2018. I kind of spent the whole year trying to solve that problem. And I was like, there's something I'm missing, because all these other people are still buying. Unless they have unlimited pots of equity, there has to be something I am missing. And obviously there was, getting partners, LP, JV, syndication type investors that I didn't know exist. So that's when I went back to the education again. And was like, there's something here I'm missing. And I found a group that taught how to buy commercial multifamilies. And that was 2018. And then I burned through all their content, all of their coaching. And then I went out in 2018 and found 3 people that were willing to pool money with me. And we bought a 52 unit apartment complex. It was my first commercial asset. And then it's been off to the races since then.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great story, man.
That is. Nice. Great path. Very cool. And I think that's just, it goes to show that it's a step at a time, right? And how you strategize that and did one investment after the other and built upon that. Just phenomenal. It's great.
Yeah.
So, right now, Vince, what project are you most passionate about right now?
Oh man, just like I was in, it's actually kind of a perfect time to ask that question and have this show, because I'm going through another, whatever you call it, evolution of Vince Gethings real estate investor. So I started like 2013 was like that first zero down VA house hack, which anybody that's listening, obviously a big majority are going to be military audience. Like if you're not doing that at like the bare minimum, like you're leaving so much on the table not to utilize your VA home loan to get your feet wet. So that was like the big, like the first one is like real estate was, compared to stocks, like that was the big aha moment. And then going from, okay, flipping a single family house to buying small multifamilies back in 2016. That was like a big aha moment. And then going from the small multifamilies to the commercial, which we did C class, B class value add, which is, probably a lot what you guys do. That was like, holy crap, if I just add, $150 rent bump on 100 units, like I just made $1 million. Like, playing with that commercial real estate game, that was huge. And then now the new aha moment for me is going into new development. So now I'm going to be Vince Gethings, the developer, instead of Vince Gethings, the apartment, value add investor syndicator. So that is, I'm really excited about that. We just got some land under contract outside of Austin, and we're going to be building, somewhere between 250 to 300 units on that, see what we can get approved for. And that is, to me, is in my head, that makes a perfect sense as an evolution, as an investor. And so that's where I'm going.
No,
That's
that's
awesome.
great. Very cool. So, as you went through, like you said, these evolutions, which I think we all in our journey, we go through these, we learn something and we're just like, okay, this makes sense. We grow to the next thing. As you were going through that initial journey, and you came from originally starting out with investing in stocks and all of that, what really clicked for you to pursue that passive income investing strategy through real estate?
The passive income from real estate is, really it's that first time you hear that Robert Kiyosaki. I think it was it could have been Rich Dad, but I think it was Cash Flow Quadrant. I'm more particular to Cash Flow Quadrant and Guide to Investing over the original book. But yeah, it's pretty. I think you said something like, if you can't find a way to make money in your sleep, you're gonna work till you die, kind of thing, or something along those lines. Really stuck out to me. And then that was pretty much the big one of like, going from the stocks to the real estate, and then also seeing how volatile the stocks were. Even when I went from single stocks to ETFs, they were still extremely volatile. And there was one specific instance, now that I'm kind of recalling it, was right around that same time. So right around that 2015, 2016, there was a big push from I don't remember what the law was, but it was an Obama era law about green energy. And it was like a big buzz on like solar companies and green energy and all this stuff. And that was like a thing. It was like, you got to get into these solar companies and these green energy windmill. So I put a bunch of money into these. It was like I did some ETFs, but it was a solar company, and turned out that this company was a total fraud. Like, and this was like on like NASDAQ. Like, it wasn't like some like pink sheets or penny stock thing. Like, it was on NASDAQ. It was all over Forbes. Like, it was a big, huge, company that was like, this company is going to take over the world. It was called SunEdison. And, 9 months in, stuff started getting a little fishy, and then they like were missing earnings reports and stuff like that in the quarterlies. And then something got leaked, and it was like, talking about like catching the falling knife thing, where something got leaked, and it was like pretty much like the CEO and CFO are just complete fraudsters, like the SBF level, like, and like they like, he like left the country and all this stuff, and it went from like
I remember hearing
vaporized.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 30. I think I bought in somewhere in like the low single digits or maybe early teen, and then went all the way up to like $35 a share. And I was like, all right, we got this. And then all of a sudden it was just like boom, it like went from like $35 to like 30 cents in like a week. And that was like
Wow.
and then looking back at the time, I might have lost, 10 grand or something, 15 grand. But at the time, I like the psychological smash of that was way worse than the financial loss.
Sure.
And it was just like, and that the lesson learned was like, I'm not going to invest in anything I can't control. And with the stock market, you're given all this money and you think you have control because you can buy and sell anytime, but you have no control. You're not in those board meetings. You're not in with the CEO or these people these key decision makers. You don't know what their interests are. You don't know if they have the stakeholders' interest in mind, or do they have, their buddies' interest in mind, right? Or their own interest in mind.
Yeah,
So that
Yep.
was
absolutely.
that was the absolute decision where if I could pick one thing was that made me sell everything and go into real estate was I need to have assets that make money in my sleep and that I have control over. And that was, and obviously I didn't know at the time the tax benefits, I was, an E5, I wasn't paying taxes anyway. So, so,
Yep.
you know what I mean? So the tax
Yeah.
benefits were like, oh yeah, cool tax benefits. But at the time, it wasn't really a priority. It was having control, having that money come in when I'm sleeping, having other people pay your rent for you or pay your mortgage for you. So you're getting equity that way. And then I was just started to dip my toes into like forced appreciation, and then the tax benefits and bonus appreciation and things like that, cost segs, like that
So
stuff.
many benefits.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
so many
Oh, yeah.
benefits.
Yeah.
And I mean, and we could do another complete show on just benefits that could last hours because it's so exciting to talk about and everything. So, but I want to ping off of something that you were just saying, kind of along the lines of things that have motivated you and things that you've learned along the way. So, to our transitioning military member, for the individual that's transitioning out of the military, through your experience and through your time, obviously you're still doing the guard and stuff like that, but going full time, what's some advice that what's one or two things that really pop out that you could share with them to kind of help them move forward?
Yeah, great question. And it really depends. I'll give you a couple different scenarios, but it really depends on what that person kind of has set up for themselves before they get out. If I can say one thing that kind of applies to everybody, is you need to plan like a year ahead, like have everything set up. And as far as it, if it's just an income thing, if you're going to go get another job or you're going to go do your own thing, start investing in real estate, you need to really start planning. Or you do what I did was I bought a franchise, Qual Installation was the franchise I bought, and talk about that too if we have time. But you really need to start planning and start setting up those targets like a year out. Because even for me, I started 6 months out and I still wasn't ready. I still didn't have enough time to get everything set up and lined up. And for example, for me, give you context is when I was getting out, I already had a pretty good amount of cash flow coming in from my real estate investments. However, I was losing my W-2, right? The military W-2. And when I sat down with my banker, and this was about eight or so months out before I got out, and I sat down with my banker and I said, this is my plan and everything. He's like, it's a great plan, except for you just plan on not being lendable for like 2 to 3 years. And I was like, why? I'm making all this money for my real estate portfolio. And he's like, that's great and all, but that's all passive income. And passive income is a double-edged sword. For a lot of instances, like sure, you're going to have a bunch of low tax-based income and you're going to be living off of, and your lifestyle is going to be great. But when you go get like a house loan or a car, or car's a little bit different, but a house loan or other kind of investment loan, we're not going to take all that. Like we might take half of that income. And that kind of slapped me in the face. I was like, what do you mean? And you kind of said, the underwriters are going to discount passive income pretty heavily. So you need to figure that out. So that is what started down the franchise route of, okay, well, I'll keep my real estate portfolio growing. But I need to find another source of income. I didn't want to go get another job. That was kind of the line I drew in the sand. I was like, I got to figure this out on my own or I'm not going to do it. So my way was to go reach out to a franchise consultant And what they do is they're like franchise brokers. They help you find franchises that are kind of fit what you're looking for, your level of involvement, your budget in the area that you're looking to grow. And you start a process, you get like 10 of them or so, and you kind of interview and you pick one. And that's what I did. I'm going to Michigan. Installation seems to be good because it's cold here. So there's a lot more to it than that, but I ended up on the installation company, bought some territory. So now I'm a W-2 employee as the president or CEO of Koala Installation. So now I had no break in my W-2 because I was able to get out of the military on November 21st, and on November 22nd, I was employed on at Koala Installation. So I get a pay stub every week, just like everybody else. And that prevented me from being non-lendable, because otherwise he was like, you pretty much got to start something and then have like 3 years of tax returns set up for that new S Corp or whatever you want to set up, the new LLC you want to set up, in order for our underwriters to kind of take that income. So
Sure.
Start planning ahead.
That's great.
Start solving for that that active income. Don't discount the importance of active income with where you're at. So that's
awesome.
Great advice. Very nice.
Awesome. So we chatted, and I know we've been chatting quite a bit, but you think about that message that you want to get across to people, and you shared a couple of things. You talked about passive income, you talked about active income, but if you had a billboard that you were able to put up in the middle of Times Square, that you could have hundreds of thousands of people passing every single day, what kind of message would you want to share with folks? To what kind of, whatever it would be, mindset, just wisdom, whatever it would be.
I wrote this question down. I kind of been glancing down on it while we've been talking to see how I'm going to answer it. And I'm going to do it as kind of the most transparent way possible with where I'm at right now in my life. As how old am I? 34 years old, 16 years in the military, getting out, going full speed as an entrepreneur. And the one thing that kind of stuck out me is I had a mentor kind of sit me down, said, "You're doing great things, but your kids are only going to be 6 once." So that would be the billboard I put up is, your son is only going to be 6 once, or your daughter's only going to be 10 once. Because that is something for people that are hardcore entrepreneurs, that is easy to forget. Like for me and somebody with like my work ethic and my focus, like I can put my head down and work on a project, and then I'll pull it up 3 months later and be like, what just happened? It's May. And I wouldn't even think twice about it. Like, it doesn't even cross my mind about all those things I'm missing. And it's just like, zoned out. They're just like the blur and the peripherals. So I have to stop myself and put brakes on throughout the day, throughout the week, and remember myself to like slow down and be present. Cause otherwise I'm just, I'll just focus and towards some goal and not realize the second and third order effects of that type of mentality. So that would be my
absolutely. No, that's great. And it's so true. It's so easy to get focused and sucked into your mission or your goal, what you're trying to accomplish.
Life.
And exactly. And then you miss out on the full spectrum, the whole picture of what you need to be. Like you said, the family and the kids and everything. That's huge. So, really, I want to kind of move to the next question. Is what we find is that some of the best lessons come from what many people consider to be failures, right? So what's one of the maybe biggest, or what we like to call them seminars or lessons, but on a positive light, what is one of your biggest failures or lessons that you've had that maybe you would call your favorite, that maybe set you up for greater success in the future?
Yep. So again, full transparency, I'll one that I'm dealing with right now. So one that I'm dealing with right now is we have a property that is on a bridge loan. We did about $1.5 million in renovations to this property. It's a 102 unit apartment building, and we did $1.5 million, and we have a ton of equity in this property now. I think the BOV on it was around 14 million, and I think we owe like 8. So we have a ton of equity on this property. However, it's on a 2-year bridge loan, variable rate. And we are getting absolutely crushed right now with the rate increases on that. We're in no danger on the loan maturing on us or anything like that. We have like a year and a half, we're only a year and a half in, so we have a year and a half to solve this problem before the loan matures on it. And we have a ton of equity on it. So we're in no danger of being underwater on the value. However, the short-term cash flow suck on this property is just something to make, you sweat and lose sleep over, because when you're talking numbers that big, a 150 basis point jump in the SOFR or the interest rate, we're talking like a $5,000 swing in your mortgage payment a month. So that is probably the biggest mistake to date, is getting a variable rate bridge loan, which they're not bad, that they're a very useful tool, but not getting a rate cap for that loan. And I didn't, and again, as we're talking about as a lesson learned, is I didn't even know when we got this loan 2 years ago, when we were going down the process of this loan, I didn't even know to even ask to get a rate cap. And then now when we were looking to possibly refinance it, we're having to refinance it now, and not a great market. But if I would have gotten the rate cap on day one, we could just ride the storm out. We wouldn't have to worry.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know what a rate cap is, say my original loan was at a 4%, I can go spend another, at the time, it would probably have been worth like 50, 60 grand. I can go spend another 50, 60 grand and essentially buy an insurance policy that keeps my interest rate at 4%. I didn't do that. So now my interest rate's at like 9%, because interest rates have gone insane the last year. So now my interest rate's at 9%, and I'm just at the mercy of SOFR. And yeah, so that's my biggest, probably my biggest mistake and lesson learned from that is, if you're going to go variable rate, which they're not bad, nothing's really bad. It's just, it was the wrong tool for the job, for this job. And I should have bought the insurance policy, which is a rate cap. And
But
now
you're
we're
pushing through it, which is awesome.
Yeah, we're pushing through it. We have meetings on this about once a week, and it's like, okay, are we going to refinance in the current market state, which is just take a higher rate interest rate loan and maybe leave some equity on the table, and we'll worry about it in a couple of years and capture equity then. Do we want to go buy a rate cap now, which that same rate cap I could have bought for 50 grand is like 220 grand. So, do we want to do that, or do we want to self-insure and we all just inject a bunch of, we all just inject about 100 grand into the bank account and just ride the storm out? So that's pretty much our three options. And we're playing week by week. Right now, we're going down the refinance option. And, that's probably what we'll do, is probably do a refinance, put it to bed on like an agency loan and revisit in about 2 years, 3 years, see about either refinancing it again or doing a supplement or
from
something
there.
like that. Yeah. But
yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's some great lessons, and we definitely appreciate your time. Bringing this value, and as we're coming to time to wrap up here, it's been a phenomenal time here with Vince Gethings, highly successful Air Force veteran, entrepreneur, real estate investor. And so Vince, how can a listener contact you and get involved with you and your mission?
I'm on all the places. So I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook. I don't check LinkedIn a whole lot. So Facebook is probably the easiest way. I'd imagine there's only a couple of us out there with the name Vincent Gethings. So I'm probably pretty easy to find. And then my email is vincent@tricityequity.com.
Awesome. Thank you again, Vince. It's been great. So for those of you listening right now, thanks for taking the time to listen to the Wealth Tank podcast. If you'd like to learn more about investing in multifamily real estate, download our free passive investing guide on our website, JCOREinvestments.com. It's JCORE investments.com. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And
also, if you'd like to access our investment deals, be sure to join our JCORE Investment Club. you can find that on the website. It's absolutely free, and we will personally connect with you to determine if you're qualified and if investing with us is a good fit and a right time for everybody. All these details, again, will be in the show notes. So if you found value from today's podcast, please send Vince a note and let him know. Then leave us a 5-star rating and review it and share it with a friend. So again, since Vince is Air Force, until next time, aim higher, fly Navy. Have a good one.